specifically had a chance to talk with all of the quarterbacks. Uh, what did you come away from this quarterback class just in your conversations?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed all the conversations I had. A lot of different personalities, different backgrounds, different schools, and different skill sets. Obviously, coming out of this class, and as all of us in this conversation are aware, every year it seems there's this big conversation around. Oh, we're so excited about quarterbacks, so excited about quarterbacks, so excited about quarterbacks. Then we actually get to the draft process and we get down
Mhm.
to it, and there's shockingly only 2 or 3 guys that actually matter to the process. And this is something that happens every year. So I know everybody wants to talk about the 2027 class, but it's the same
Yep.
thing I heard about the 2026 class and the 2025, 24, 23, 22, and every class before that. So I think the part of this that I want to take out of the conversations I had were, Ty Simpson, I thought was a very interesting interview. He was very upfront and honest about the struggles that he had. And that's usually the part of this that I like to address with the players is, in the NFL, you're going to face adversity. We know that. It doesn't matter what team or what organization you end up in. And especially if you end up in a place that's really quarterback needy, you're going to end up in a position where you got to face adversity. And so how did they handle those things? To me, Ty Simpson is probably the person that will understand how to handle the NFL the best because being an Alabama quarterback under Kalen DeBoer has not been very fun. It has been a nightmare, quite frankly. And that's not a reflection on the coaching staff. That's just a reflection on the people in this whole state of Alabama. It is very hard to meet the expectations and the pressure that is to be an Alabama quarterback. And he had pockets of time where we were looking at him as, wow, this could be the next guy. So, yes, he doesn't have the amount of starts. Yes, he doesn't maybe necessarily have the, tape, full body of tape. But if you watch Fernando Mendoza for the first few weeks of this season, he wasn't spectacular either. And that's the thing you got to know about these quarterbacks is you're going to have good, bad, and otherwise for each guy that comes out. It's about the situation that they're going to. And I think for me, when I look at Ty Simpson, I look at a kid who has handled a very tough situation in Alabama. And I think from a maturity standpoint, can handle maybe some of the tougher markets that I know you guys are aware of, that it's not the same going to Chicago or New York as it is going to Arizona. The Kyler Murray situation, he's been in Arizona kind of in a bubble for a long time. He's about to get a harsh reality depending on where he goes and where he plays football next. So I think my biggest takeaway was I came away from my conversation that was 35 minutes with Ty Simpson going, yeah, this is a kid who gets it. He really gets it, and I think could be a special player at the next level.
So he was firm in his decision to enter the draft as opposed to, say, transferring to another school, despite the reports out there that he was being offered big money.
Yeah, to me at least, he answered the question pretty emphatically, Tony, that was the first thing I wanted to see. Like, I wanted to see, did he look me in the eyes, right? Was he fidgeting? How did he answer the question? How did he follow up on the question? To me, that was the emphatic, yeah, I'm going. And it didn't seem to me that it was a question for him. And I think probably been blown out of proportion. I think people just like reporting all the money that's being offered, right? I think that's also at this point, it's like, hey, well, this was reported and this was reported. And there's not really any way for any of us to really know if any of that happened, right? It's really easy hindsight to say, yeah, he was offered this amount of money. But does that mean that next year coming into a really, what we said on paper is supposed to be a good quarterback class, right? Would that be a better option for him? I think he understands that he has an opportunity in this class where there is not a clear past Mendoza quarterback to really shine. And that's what I took away from the conversation.
At the same time, did you speak with Drew Allar?
I did speak to Drew. Drew's the interesting one in that when you see him, he's like, that's a quarterback, right? Like, I think of even of Mendoza, who I stood right next to, who I know is big, but doesn't look the same as Drew Allar, right? Just physically. So I hesitate to say that because I think that's what people get caught up in is they like, hey, he's a prototype guy. And we all know how that worked out for John Elway many, many drafts in a row where he was drafting prototypes and not actually good quarterbacks, right? I will say I'm intrigued by Drew Allar. I liked how he answered the questions. I like that he owned, and this is, because he was out here for Fiesta Bowl, I've talked to Drew Allar quite a few times. So this is not the first time that I had an interaction with him. He doesn't shy away from any of the negativity, which I always want to hear these guys own. And it's the same the NFL does. They don't want you to pretend. They don't want you to lie to them. They want you to own up to what happened and just talk through it, right? That's what being a grown-up is. You got to own it. And that's, I think for him, was the part of this that I thought was very interesting. He obviously had a very tumultuous season. I was intrigued by my conversation with him. We had, he was probably one of the more fun interviews that I had, just from like a personality standpoint. And I could see guys really kind of rallying around him is what I would say. He's a pretty vocal, fun guy to be around, and definitely looks the part. Definitely looks the part.